John Wick is more than just an action hero. He's a representation of the metaphysical forces that move just beneath the perceived surface world around us. Kind of like the angels of yore, only instead of swords, they carry combat pistols. Hey everyone, I'm Matt from Matt's Screenplays. If chiseling out your basement floor and digging up a cache of weapons is your thing, then you've probably come to the right place. I want you to set your cinematic sights on our like button and subscribe. Couple things before we get started though. I've got a question for you. Have you ever had a Wonder Ball? Well, this video is kind of like a Nestle Wonder Ball. Hidden inside the chocolatey Firearms goodness is a secret. If you find that secret, I want you to put it in the comments below and I will pin the first one who gets it to the top. It'll be something really subtle, but kind of out of place. Don your best tailored suit and make Willem Dafoe your friend, because we are about to cover the top 5 firearms in John Wick. Right, are y'all ready?
While the guns of the later movies are more varied and wildly customized, the first John Wick movie is the one that started it all. Keanu Reeves had to undergo hours upon hours of firearms training and actually became quite proficient in terms of putting rounds on target, rapid-fire style. His training involved more than just hanging up paper targets and shooting at them. He had to meticulously hone his firearms proficiency with a professional trainer. He trained with shotguns, handguns, and AR-15 style carbines. Wick's H&K P30L looks tame in comparison to later guns in the Wick series, with only a custom compensator being the most notable difference between it and a standard handgun of this model. Wick's precision is only matched by his ability to move and eliminate multiple targets at once, sometimes engaging in hand-to-hand combat before resorting to his firearm. Keanu Reeves' dynamic style of running and gunning is indicative of the hours and hours of practice and training he received while preparing for this role. It was on his own insistence that he made sure that every time he was shown firing a gun on screen, that it looked as accurate and as realistic as possible. This attention to detail is what sets the John Wick films apart from other action movies. It's evident that Reeves knows his weapons. The H&K P30L offers chamberings in both 9mm and 40 caliber Smith & Wesson. It also boasts ambidextrous controls, meaning that it is an ideal weapon for either left or right-handed shooters. The slide release and magazine release can be positioned on either side of the frame like many other handguns on the market today. This is in contrast to older semi-automatic handguns like the M1911A1, which originally were designed for ease of right-handed operation. The HK P30L is the full-size version of the smaller, more easily concealable P30. Magazine capacity is right at 15, which for John Wick means little, as he is more than capable of fast magazine changes, even while on the move or exchanging gunfire with encroaching henchmen. The double-action single action of this pistol lends some versatility to the P30L, as it allows the gun to be decocked while holstered. While some methods of decocking require the firearm user to depress the trigger while holding the hammer and easing it down, this can be dangerous, as if the hammer slips from the grip of the user's thumb, it can discharge the weapon. However, the P30L can be ordered with a decocking mechanism, much like similar pistols such as the Walther PPK, which allows a user to drop the hammer safely without needing to hold on to the spur of the hammer. Since it's both double action and single action, even with the hammer down, if the shooter pulls the trigger, the hammer will raise before falling back down and firing the weapon. This results in a longer trigger pull for the first shot, but each follow-up shot will be single action, as the slide cocks the hammer back under recoil. The extension at the end of the pistol's muzzle is a compensator. Compensators are used in combination with some firearms to direct gases from the barrel upwards, helping to control recoil. These escaping gases counteract the upwards recoil force of a firearm. The less felt recoil, or kick, the easier the firearm is to control. For John Wick, this means being able to quickly transition from target to target without having to find his sights over and over again. Having to recover from recoil while finding a target is the greatest detriment to a shooter on the move, or a shooter in a multiple attacker defense situation. Although, in John Wick's case, it just makes his scenes look cooler. Kapow. The Kel-Tec KSG looks very modern, and for good reason. Its production began relatively recently, back in 2011. Kel-Tec, as a company, is known for producing firearms that have a distinct look to them. While they don't have a lineup as extensive as many other companies, they do have a lineage that goes all the way back to the first firearms that they produced back in 1995. John Wick acquires the KSG during a gunfight from a henchman. In gunfighting parlance, this is called a battlefield pickup, where a fallen combatant's firearm is taken and used by an opponent. Although, if I was on the wrong side and saw John Wick coming, I'd probably kindly lay down the firearm for him and run away. The KSG seen on screen has had a few custom touches added to it. The shotgun is operated by a pump-action loading mechanism, so the shooter has to manually rack the pump to eject a round, then shove it forward to load a fresh one. Typically, the Kel-Tec KSG has a basic forend like a typical shotgun to facilitate chambering and loading. The KSG wielded by Wick, however, has a vertical foregrip installed. Also, along the Picatinny rail, a reflex sight has been installed. A reflex sight uses a curved mirror and optical glass to create a sighting image that replaces regular iron sights. This allows quick target acquisition. For example, when a person is avenging the horrific death of their puppy and has to face down half the Russian mafia inside their fortified headquarters. This is my dog. He looks tough, but he's kind of a weenie. What's most notable about the KSG that differs from many other shotguns is the dual-tube magazine and the bullpup design. Bullpup designs are rarely seen in rifles, and it's even rarer to see in a shotgun. Bullpup simply means that the part of the cycling and firing action of the firearm itself is located behind the trigger. This makes for a more compact shoulder-mounted weapon that can still have the same barrel length as conventionally configured rifles at the cost of being slightly more complex. The magazine is loaded from the rear of the grip and comprises part of the stock. The user can manually select which magazine they wish to use from the two that the shotgun has. Double the magazines means double the potential capacity, and the KSG can be loaded with up to 14 rounds, with a later variant capable of up to 24. There are probably more Beretta Model 92s on movie armory house shelves than there are Colt 1911s and single actions. Or, so it's been said. But what sets this gun apart is its rarity coupled with its special construction. I personally love the look of this specific style of Beretta 92. Beretta 92s in general simply fit well in the hand and have been called on as sidearms for soldiers and police officers trapped in high-rise buildings with terrorists for decades. What sets this pistol apart from your standard Beretta 92 is the metallurgy, namely that the Inox in its namesake stands for inoxidizable. Oxidize is another word for the verb to rust. For something to be inoxidizable, it must be able to withstand corrosion, therefore not rust. Gun grammar aside, it's not just the good looks of this finish that keeps the corrosion away, it's a characteristic of the stainless steel from which the pistol is made. Many people confuse the finish on an Inox with the nickel finish found on other firearms. And while many people love the look of a nickel finish, the more subtle, durable satin finish of the Beretta 92 Inox gives it a more subdued kind of glamour. Kind of like John Wick's relatively plain, tailored suit. Nickel plating, or more properly, nickel electroplating, is a process that utilizes clean steel submerged in a mixture in which a nickel anode is placed. Nickel molecules deposit themselves on the steel piece, making it impermeable to rust and corrosion. However, this is only a durable coating. This is the same process that the automotive industry used to use to coat steel bumpers. The Beretta Inox, on the other hand, is forged completely from stainless steel, making its corrosion-resistant properties more than just skin deep. The Inox finish is not only limited to the Beretta 92, however. Other firearms, such as the Beretta 21 Bobcat, Beretta Tomcat, and Beretta 8000 series handguns are also available in an Inox version. There's even a Colt clone produced by Beretta called the Stampede, chambered in .45 long Colt. It's too bad that such a beautiful gun is seen in the hands of a henchman just after they bring John Wick's Mustang to Aurelio. The Beretta 92 Inox is one of the rare variations of the 92 models, but it still retains the same chambering of a standard 92, the venerable 9mm. The controls of the Beretta 92 Inox retain the same layout as any other Beretta 92, with a safety lever being mounted on the slide and the slide release just behind the disassembly lever. While being seen only briefly, the Beretta Inox has been the gun of choice for villains and heroes alike, ranging from the Transporter to Bad Boys for Life, even appearing briefly in a movie poster for Pulp Fiction, though it is never actually seen used in the film itself. Make no mistake about this fourth weapon. At first glance, as John Wick uses it to great effect against several bad guys, one might assume this rifle is just another M4. But it's not. It's a copy of one. More specifically, it's a copy of a copy. That's not a bad thing. Weapons platforms are often cloned in design and functionality, and in many cases improvements can be made to the original platform. In this case, the Coharie Arms CA415 is a clone of the Heckler & Koch HK416, which itself is based off of the M4 platform. Notable here is the barrel length, which has been shortened somewhat from the 415's 16.5-inch barrel. Along the accessory rails of the forestock and receiver are mounted various peripherals, such as a holographic sight and vertical foregrip. The configuration of this firearm is indicative of the current trend in defensive shooting firearm markets towards compact weapons with fast target acquisition capabilities and aids for recoil control and weapons handling. The holographic sight, for example, allows for the shooter to be focused on multiple targets at once, able to see potential combatants in their periphery. The holographic sight is an old technology and was developed more than 120 years ago. It is just now seeing widespread use as LEDs and lengthened battery life have allowed it to be more practical. Vertical foregrips are also necessary at times for high recoil, sustained automatic fire, as it allows the shooter to tuck the weapon in tighter to the shoulder. This allows the shooter to maintain sight alignment in a proper cheek weld. The 415, like a majority of M4 and AR-15 platforms, is chambered in 5.56 NATO, a bullet designed by the military specifically for its fight-stopping and incapacitating capability, along with favorable ballistics characteristics. In the last 20 years or so, the 5.56 has become one of the most popular rounds on the market for long guns, especially after the resurgence of interest in AR-15 platforms for competition and home defense. Here, Wick can be seen using the 415 in the squared-up combat stance as he eliminates several of his attackers. This stance is touted by combat shooters as being more natural and better suited to quick movement than traditional leg-back stances seen frequently with traditional rifle shooters. This is probably owing to the combat training Reeves received. The John Wick films have made it a point to showcase realistic defensive shooting weapons handling and techniques, something Keanu Reeves does flawlessly with the 415. There are bolt-action rifles. There are also bullpup rifles, but there are very few bullpup bolt-action rifles. Seen wielding one on the roof after a battlefield pickup, Wick manages to use the Desert Tactical Arms Stealth Recon Scout against a lookout patrolling on an adjacent building. This rifle combines the benefit of both bolt action and bullpup design into one. First, let's talk about bolt action rifles. Bolt action rifles are noted for their increased precision and control over round extraction. Their design is simple, reliable, and easy to tear down to facilitate a repair should one be needed. Accuracy, in general, is slightly higher for bolt-action rifles, as they do not need to port off gases to cycle their actions. Also, bolt-action rifles can be more easily manufactured in a variety of calibers using the same platform, owing to their simplicity. Mechanisms require little change to accommodate different chamberings. Bolt-action rifles very rarely malfunction during extraction, and jams are practically unheard of. All of this comes, of course, at a premium: the rate of fire. The rate of fire of a bolt action nowhere near approaches that of an automatic or even a semi-automatic. Bolt action rifles are generally associated with stealth shooting. That's because the action itself is inherently more quiet. There are no cycling parts to make noise, and the escaping of gases are contained within the breech and the barrel. Coupled with a suppressor, this could potentially bring down the noise level considerably. The bullpup design of the Recon Scout makes the rifle more compact without sacrificing barrel length, as some of the action parts are behind the trigger assembly. The overall length of the rifle is just over 38 inches, but the barrel length itself is right at 26. This may make magazine changes somewhat cumbersome, as a shooter has to reach back to remove the magazine. However, with a rifle like the Recon Scout, whose primary use is long-distance stealth shooting, shooters shouldn't expect to have to perform emergency mag changes on a frequent basis like someone in close-quarters combat engagements may need to. Like many precision bolt-action rifles, the Recon Scout has a limited magazine capacity at 5 rounds for the .338 and 6 rounds for the .300 Winchester, .308, and .260 Remington. Outfitted with the same accessory rail system as an AR-15 rifle, the modularity of this rifle makes it ideal for customization to suit various combat and shooting roles. The rifle seen in John Wick is outfitted with a bipod and an optic. With his target at roughly 150 to 200 yards, scoring a hit while freestanding shouldn't be too difficult with a rifle as precision engineered as the Recon Scout. We are left with a lingering sense by the end of the movie that the universe that John Wick inhabits is much like our own, except the powers that move nations and strive to conquer are much more nuanced and difficult to perceive than we'd like to believe. That is what I believe is the subtext of it. The players in the arena of the assassin world which John Wick inhabits behave more like metaphysical beings than actual killers, but it's chilling in a way that tints the John Wick films with a supernatural element. John Wick, after all, survives gunshots, punches, self-amputation, and falling from the top of a building throughout the movies that follow the first one. Things that would surely kill even the most highly trained assassin. This is to say nothing of the cryptic and archaic systems that are in place within the movie, such as the operators and the antiquated means by which they broadcast and store information. Are John Wick and the other assassins actually angels or supernatural beings operating on a higher plane? Who knows? Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, recommend, hire a plane to fly a banner with our channel name on it, and also name your firstborn Firearms with a middle name in film. I'm just kidding, just a like and a subscribe is good enough. Bye y'all!